everyone. So I am doing my end of the month wrap up. So I decided to start cataloging all of my different books that I wanted to do for the year. So one thing I've noticed is that there are people who kind of like different detailed lists of like how many physical books you've read, ebooks, different things like that, how many books you've DNF'd, all the different stuff. So I wrote down a list of the things that I did for January. So I read 5 physical books, like physical books that I currently own. I've read 5 of them. Physical books I DNF'd throughout the month is 3. Physical books I donated 9, so I want to keep like going with my books, so I'm donating more and more every month. Ebooks read 9, and ebooks I DNF'd 5. So here are all the January DNFs that are all my digital ones that I ended up DNFing. Now the first one, this is another reason I have stated before, I'm not a big fan of Christina Lauren. Their writing is very beginner tier. That's the way I kind of think about it. Is like, if you're a beginner when it comes to like romance, reading romance, and maybe you're not like, you haven't delved into like sex scenes and different things like that, the Christina Lauren is probably a good stepping stone for you. But for me, I've been reading romance for like 20 plus years. So this is like amateur type of storytelling for me. And I don't always like the heroines. So with the Unhoneymooners, I had read a Christina Lauren book before this one. So I was trying to like listen to this one. I ended up DNFing it because I was just like, I don't care. You know, I just didn't care. And I was just like, no, I'm going to move on. The next one was Stephanie Archer. That one there, I felt like the writing was a bit immature for me. I would say this probably would, people who were maybe like early 20s, possibly late teens might like this person's writing. It's very amateurish, and I'm not sure if they're considered young adult. I don't know. But I felt like it was very immature writing, and I didn't like the style of how this person wrote. So like, no, it's not for me. So the next one after that was the same thing. Leah Brunner, Desire Defense. I wasn't feeling this book at all. And so I just ended up DNFing it. Moonshine, I really wanted to like this because it was like a post-apocalyptic one, and I like post-apocalyptic, but the writing was boring to me. I couldn't get into it. Against the Clock, Brittany Kelly. I really wanted to like this. I really did. I had no problem with the writing style of the author, but I will say I did not like the fact that this couple got together way too quickly for me, for my taste. I really want books to be more of a slow burn. I used to not like slow burns, but lately I really appreciate more of a slow burn, having me get to know the characters, everything around them, where they live, their life, before I see them getting intimate with somebody. When I see like a character get way too intimate with somebody too quickly, I get bored with the story. So it all depends on how the writer does it. Like sometimes I'm shocked with like, there's a few books that I've read recently where it was maybe like within like 20% of the book, or maybe even 10% of the book, where the characters were already like doing it. And then I was like, oh man, I hope that I like the rest of this book. But I ended up like staying with the book because I was like, oh, well, this is good. I like the writing. But this one here was like, after the couple like had sex with each other, it was all over like social media. It reminded me too much of that other book. There's another book I read recently that had the same thing where it was like, oh, well, it's because this person's a famous football player, she's in the limelight. And I'm like, I don't give a shit who football players date. The whole thing of like that Kelsey, what's his name again? Kelsey, my husband knows his name. My husband knows. Mike, what's Taylor Swift's boyfriend again?
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce, thank you. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift dating, I don't give a flying fuck. I don't care. It does not, entice me to care who Taylor Swift is fucking. I don't give a shit. You are in your early 20s and you love Taylor Swift, you are Swiftie, that's awesome. That's so great for you. Have at it. Enjoy yourself. It's not for me. It's not for me. I'm not really, I like her songs, but I'm not a Swiftie. Okay. So this kind of like has a similar vibe to it, where this woman is a reporter, and her and the dude, like, especially because she was like, well, she's like, I'm not a football fan. Like she's got like like issues with football. But yeah, and she sleeps with the quarterback like super easily. And I was like, girl, build up the relationship before you let him in your, oven. I mean, that's why I ended up like, not liking it. And then the whole social media aspect to it, where, everybody knows who she is. And I'm just like, no, I don't like that. I just don't like it. So I was like, no, DNF, I'm done. And then for the cheat sheet, this is sad because it's like the author's ebooks for purchase obviously are set by the publication company, which I fucking hate, because the ebooks are like $11.99. I don't want to pay $11.99 for a fucking ebook. So I was like, well, let me get the sample of this and read the sample. If I like the sample, I may like the book. So I read the sample, and I read like the first few chapters, and I was like, oh, I like this. I like the book. Let me buy it. So I bought the physical copy, and then I got about chapter 7 and I DNF'd it. And it was because of the heroine. She was so annoying. Now, there's other people who reviewed the book and felt like the heroine was a bit of a pick-me, which I hate that term. I will just say that. I hate that term because that term gets used a lot for women. A lot. And I fucking hate it. I've been called a pick-me because I don't agree with a lot of things that women like. I'm sorry. All of us women are not going to agree with the same shit. We're all not going to like the same things. I'm sorry. That's just how we are. It's like dudes aren't into the same shit. Not all dudes like sports, okay? Not all guys like it. So there you go. So I really didn't like the heroine because it was very much the thing of like, well, we're just friends. I love him, but we're just friends. We're just friends. We're just friends. We're just friends. How many times do I have to hear it from the heroine that they're just friends? Why do you have to keep repeating it? And this dude has like been in love with her for years. And it's like, why don't you finally just say, look, this may end the relationship, this may end our friendship, but I'm in love with you. Why don't you start from there? Why do you have to keep up this farce of we're just friends? The way he looks at you, how could you be so fucking dense that you cannot tell this man's in love with you? And you cannot tell him. I got about chapter 7 and I was just like, this heroine is so frustrating and so annoying. And I'm glad I'm not the only one who was annoyed with her. I was really annoyed with this heroine. I really was. So those are my DNFs. I'm going to go and I'll put up a timestamp. So if anybody wants to like skip through the DNFs, I'll just do that. People just skip through it if they want to. So the first book I'll talk about is The Phantom of Drury Lane, which I have to go to my Goodreads now. I'm going to go to my Goodreads and I'm going to click on my read books. Okay. Now, the first book I ended up reading this month, I really enjoyed it. Gave it 5 stars. So it's The Phantom of Drury Lane by Kate Bateman. Now, this is part of the Scandals and Scoundrels of Drury Lane, book number 5, but you can read these all as standalones. You don't have to read them. Okay. I know I did a review for this. Motherfucker. I hate Goodreads. I hate Goodreads. I just... So many times I'm like, I want to just get rid of Goodreads, but I'm so used to it. It's hard for me to get used to something else. So this one here, there's no review for it. I know I reviewed it. I know there are times like, and this is what I found out from last year, Goodreads has a tendency of deleting reviews just on whim, you know? Like, they will delete your review. So, and I've heard about that. Like, they just take off stuff off their database. And, like, meanwhile, there's books that I've read how many years ago that are probably going to be no longer there because they want to take it off their database. So, I really need to push for, like, writing down, putting my reviews in for Storygraph or some of the other ones, just so I have an extra thing, you know, just so I have an extra thing. But this one here, I can't believe there's no review for it. There, it's right there. I don't know why it's not showing up. Goodreads, you really irritate me. It was not there before. Now it's there. So the characters were I think it's Lucia. It could be Lucia, but I say Lucia. Lucia Montgomery and William Arden. He's the Viscount Ware. This is an open door sex on page, so you know it's not closed door or anything. So the Lucy Montgomery sees Will Arden after 3 years of being away traveling, and she's not happy about it because all he has done for years is tease her. I said he is her brother's best friend. So Will has been pining for Lucy for years. You could see the pining that he's had for her. And one night years ago, they kissed. So he pushed her away then because he wasn't willing at that time to get married. I said, since the war ended and it has left him scarred, he has some scars on his face, he sees Lucy and realizes that it's a second chance for him to make things right and to finally make Lucy his. So I said, I enjoyed this quick novella. You could see the mutual pining both of these characters had for each other. And when Lucy gets challenged to find out who the Phantom at the theater is, Will sets out to show Lucy how he feels about her. Like I said, it was a cute novella. I really enjoyed it. I did give it 5 stars. So the next book I ended up reading, I wasn't a fan of this. This is Resting Scrooge Face by Megan Quinn. I gave it 3 stars. So I said there was no sexy time scenes in here, so I'd say it was more of a fade to black. There was nothing in here to, you know, it didn't get to that point. So it says Nola comes back to her hometown where Caleb, her ex-boyfriend, lives. So they become unknowing pen pals. It gets set up by some elderly matchmakers. So I said it was cute, but I wanted a bit more from the story. So that's why I ended up giving it a 3. So that was a quick one. And yeah, really nothing special about it. It was okay. But like I said, if you're looking for like a Megan Quinn sexy time, you're not going to get it in that one there. Which it was not in there at all. So, and also I think it's because it's an Amazon original. So Amazon probably has particular things that they allow you to put in your books and things that they don't want you to be in the books. I know for example, they probably are not big fans of romance being on their database, but they gotta suck it because that's, you know, a huge draw for them is romance. So they probably don't like that though. So I ended up reading Exterminatrix by Bryn Weaver because I wanted to read other Bryn Weaver books. This one was okay. This was kind of like weird outside the whole, god damn it, Goodreads. Lately, Goodreads has been like crashing for me all the time. It crashes. I get so annoyed with it. I really need to like buckle down and use a different app, because Goodreads has really been pissing me off lately. So the characters in Exterminatrix are Layla and Castro. So it's a dominant human / submissive lizard creature. So it was a quick erotic novella with a dominant human demon hunter and a virgin submissive lizard creature she was supposed to kill. That's basically the whole story. Is she's supposed to kill him, like she's an exterminator, and yeah, she ends up being attracted to them, and they do like some sexy times and go from there. It was okay. Next one I'm going to skip. I'm going to wait for that one because it is a 2-star. I'd rather wait till the end of the year to talk about my worst books I've read. So I'd rather wait till the end of the month to talk about that one. So the next one I read was Sanctuary by Claire Kent. I love Claire Kent. She's also, her name is Noelle Adams. She writes contemporary for Noelle Adams, and then she writes her other type of like little bit darker stories as Claire Kent. So this one here I gave 4 stars. So it said it has Brianna, I think it's Brianna and Aiden. So there's content warning for talk of former sexual abuse and assault. I said past talk of death of loved ones. So I said Brianna, her younger sister Dell, and Cole, Dell's fiance, are comfortable in their village / stronghold, a place that they feel safe in with other people, a part of their community. I said, but Brianna feels this pull to do more. So she decides to go out and be a delivery person. So she ends up competing with Aiden, whom she met before, and she felt this pull to him, but he had this attitude with her. So Aiden has been on his own for many years. It has made him more closed off. So he's mad when he sees that Brianna has been taking jobs away from him. So they have a little bit of a rivalry with each other. They end up getting into this competition when this lady in another settlement makes a bet on who can make it back to her settlement first with some wine, and she will reward the person back with a trade. So they end up going off separately, and Brianna gets injured, so Aiden helps her, and they have to hide in a church until she feels better and for the snow to die down. So they're very much like forced proximity, kind of hate to love things where it's like they don't really get along, but they end up learning to get along with each other during that time. I said I really enjoyed this story. You could see how guarded both of them were, where they obviously had past trauma that made it hard for them to trust again. This was sweet because you could see how gentle Aiden was with Brianna because she had past sexual trauma. He was so gentle with her and encouraging for her to explore her pleasure. So there was a bit of a third act breakup, but it was all came back together in the end. I will say that I'm a bit melancholy after reading this because of what happened to her and what happened in his past. Sad in his past. I don't want to delve too much into it because it is sad. Also the fact that this series is wrapping up and I don't want it to end. I think there's one more book to this series and then that's it. And I'm like, I don't want it to be the end because I really love this series. I think it's really good. And I'm like, please keep going. But obviously it's like, if the author is running out of ideas to do, I completely understand why she wanted to stop like this series and do something different. But I really enjoyed that one. I gave it 4 stars. So the other books I read was a part of a series. I started with Lorraine Heath. Now, I don't want to delve too much into that because I did do a vlog for it. If you haven't seen it, it's my reading vlog, Lorraine Heath. So you could check that out. I know it's over an hour. It's very long. I'm sorry about that, but I talk a lot. So I'll skip over the next book I read. So I ended up reading. Now this was a DNF last year. I wasn't feeling this book at the time because I am not into college romances anymore. It's not my thing. I used to read like Elle Kennedy and, all these other ones, Serena Bowen and all these other authors that used to write like more college romances. Same thing with Megan Quinn. They write with more college romances and I'm not into that anymore. So I can't really delve much into those authors anymore either. So I was not really I kind of like came into this one with trepidation, you know, like, I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this, you know? And so I ended up DNFing it last year because I wasn't feeling it. And I'm like, well, you know what? There's a couple people that I follow that are booktubers that kept talking about this book. And I was like, you know what? Let's delve back in. So I started with the third book in this series, and honestly, I think the third book is probably the best one of the series, and this is probably the first one you probably want to delve into if you want to get into the series, honestly, because this was the best one of the series so far that I've read. So it's Sweet Like Poison by Julia Wolf. I gave this first I gave it 4 stars, but honestly, when I look back at it, I'm like, it's a 5-star book. To me, it's a 5-star book. So we have the characters of Elena. She's nicknamed Elsa and Ellie by the hero Lachlan. He calls her Elsa. There's a reason why he calls her Elsa. It's so funny. You know, I mean, honestly, it's like Elsa. If you've ever seen Frozen, that's why he names her Elsa. I've watched the Disney movie a million fucking times because my children loved Frozen. Honestly, you know, obviously I would consider her kind of like an ice queen, yes, but also there's another reason behind why he calls her Elsa. I'll just say that. And then also he does like Ellie when he's like in a more nice mood for her, like when he's like giving her an attitude, he calls her Elsa, so I thought it was funny. His name is Lachlan. He calls, you know, he says Locke to his friends, but he tells her to call him Lachlan. I thought that was sweet. So it's enemies to lovers. Content warning, there's talk of sexual assault in here, mental abuse, school bullying, toxic relationships, family emotional trauma. So I said, this has got to be the best college romance I've read in years. I said I DNF'd this book last year because I wasn't feeling it, but I decided to try it again when I kept hearing a couple of booktube friends who couldn't stop talking about this. So I delved in, and holy shit, I was not expecting to like this book as much as I have. So Elena is a former bully / bad girl in high school. She has changed her ways and is trying to be a better person. She comes from a wealthy household, but behind that money is a family who has issues. I said as all families do. Elena has to deal with an emotionally unstable mother and a father who dotes on his wife, but also is a workaholic who would rather thrust his wife's issues on his daughter rather than dealing with them himself. So I said Lachlan also comes from damaged people, so he doesn't want to fall for anyone while he's in college. So when he starts hanging out with Elena, due to them having friends in common, he gives her the silent treatment and brooding looks. So one night, Elena gets drunk and starts to dance on a table, and Lachlan shuts that down quick by picking her up and putting her on his shoulder and brings her back to her home. I said, oh yeah, they're also neighbors, so they see each other all the time. I said, after that, they start dancing around each other, you know, emotionally. I said, until eventually the line they were on snaps and they have sex, and Lachlan gets Elena to orgasm for the first time. I said, this was an emotional roller coaster, and I thoroughly enjoyed the ride. So this one here had a lot of emotional elements to it. I'll just say that. It had a lot of emotional elements to it. I will say I like this author's writing style because she really delves into the story of where these people are at, like their college life, different things that they're dealing with, the other friends they have around them and all that stuff. I really like that. A lot of times when you have like secondary characters, it get bogged down the story, but I really didn't feel like this was bogged down. I really felt like the author gave you college life in a way to where you could still focus on the main characters, and then you also appreciated the secondary characters around you. You liked having those secondary characters too. And it made it to where you're like, hey, what's happening with this couple here? I want to read that couple next, you know, that type of thing. So I really enjoyed this one. It had a lot of deep stuff to it. Her kind of like getting through the fact that of what she dealt with in her past relationship. Besides it being a toxic relationship, he also sexually assaulted her. And that's something that she never really addressed to much of anybody else. Like, she had another friend that she talked to about it. But there was a situation at the beginning where the character died. You know, he ended up dying, the bad guy. And she's coming to terms with that, you know, and feeling that sense of, like, guilt, like it's her fault. And it's like, it wasn't her fault. And then her, you know, dealing with Lachlan and his emotional trauma. So it very much was a very emotional book. And I really enjoyed it a lot. And him being with her, like, intimately, and the things that she was feeling during that, how she never felt that with, like, anybody else, you know. And if you read it, when I go back and I've read the other books, you know, the ones before this, you could see, like, her progression, how, like, she was sleeping with men, but she wasn't having, like, I would say, like, wasn't having really any enjoyment out of it. Like, if you are not getting off with sexual, you know, pleasure and all that stuff, you're not having any pleasure from it, what's the point of having, you know, sex if you're not even having any pleasure from it? What would be the point? Just better, you know, stay celibate, you know, if you don't have any pleasure from it. Otherwise, that's the only reason why I would say, you know, you should enjoy being with somebody on a higher level other than just lust based, you know. So this was very much like them having something more than like a lust thing. First it was kind of a lust thing they were doing, but then it kind of progressed more from there, and I liked that. Where some authors just don't really kind of give you that emotional with it, and it very much feels like just lust to me. This was something deeper, and I really appreciated that from the author, that she kind of opened up it. I think I kind of call these books like onion books. There's layers to these books, very much layers, and the author kind of like opens you up to like another layer of the story, you know. These are my onions. These are the ones that kind of give you those deeper layers to a book. And I appreciate that, you know, from the author. So I ended up reading another Lorraine Heath. This is a reread for me. I ended up lowering my rating to this book because I liked it at first. I gave it 4 stars. I read it years ago. But when I reread it again, I'm like, you know what? I'm not feeling this story. I don't really like these characters. So I ended up lowering my rating. So this one here, I ended up DNFing. But it was a reread, so I did read this. I did technically read this years ago. But with my reread, I was like, I'm not feeling this. I don't really like the characters. I don't like the fact that the character of Kitty, her name was Kitty Robertson. And she very much, like, had this sense of guilt for the fact that she was born out of wedlock. And it's like, you shouldn't feel guilt of that. You didn't ask to be born. So she's like a child out of wedlock, and her mother had put her up for adoption. And she's from, her mother was from the previous series in the Lorraine Heath series. And to me, I was like, why do you have that guilt? You know, and it's like, oh, well, I can't be lustful because my mother was lustful and this is how I came to be. And then she meets this guy on the beach and they start kissing. And he's like, I think he's a duke. And he's all like, well, I want to go and get together with her and I want to have her as my mistress. And I was like, oh, no, dude. No. And I was like, no, I'm good. And I was like, no, I don't want to rehash this. I don't remember what the story was about. And I'm like, nah, I'm good. No, thanks. So I ended up like DNFing that and just went off to something else. So I delved back into the Savage U series. I ended up reading Real Like Daydreams by Julia Wolf. And this one here I gave 4 stars. I did enjoy this story. So we got the characters of Serafina and Julian. So it's content warning where there's talk of mental health issues, self-harm. There's also, it's a fake dating and there's sex toys in the bedroom. So letting you know if you're interested in that type of thing. So Serafina has been slowly getting over a breakup with her douchebag ex. He cheated on her with his female best friend. The female best friend is a fucking psycho. Fucking psycho. It's like, why don't you guys just get together and just, you already slept together. Go away. Go away. And the fact that his best friend, her ex's best friend, kept like harassing Serafina throughout the book. And I was like, why? You got the guy. Why are you worrying about her? Why are you being your best friend's little doggy that has to constantly fuck with his ex? You're a fucking bitch. So, I could not stand that woman. I could not stand her. She was so stupid. And, that was just a dumb storyline. I didn't like that storyline. So, she's in, Serafina is in her college marching band, and she wants to be the head drummer. So it said, Julian has been dealing with a lot of pain in therapy. He got hit by an SUV and almost died. That was in the second book of the series. So it said, so he has to rely on a cane most of the time, and his health insurance no longer covers physical therapy. So he's been dealing with a lot. I said, also he's depressed and doesn't really want to do a lot of socializing, and he doesn't like to show off his face because he's badly scarred. Besides, like, him getting really fucked up in that car, because he got hit really hard to the point where he should have died. He honestly should have died because how hard he got hit. It's a miracle he actually survived that crash, getting hit, because he had how many broken bones. Has a severe limp to the point where even with physical therapy, he's probably always going to have that limp. And he was badly scarred to where there was only so much that he was, that plastic surgeons were able to do to fix his face, So he has a lot of trauma and a lot of issues of that, and his friendship with the other character in the series, Amir, and his relationship with Amir, because him and Amir grew up together. So they kind of have this separation where they're not really talking with each other. Amir doesn't know how to talk to him, and Julian is he doesn't know how to communicate with his friend. He doesn't know how to tell him, like, it wasn't your fault, what happened. I'm the one that chose to be in front of that car. The car was meant for Amir. Julian pushed him out of the way and saved his friend by getting hit. But now they have this, like, relationship where their friendship is a little on the rocks, And so Serafina, it needs a fake boyfriend to help her make it as lead drummer, so Julian agrees to help her. It basically is a bet where Serafina, the one person who's in their drummer group who, like, calls the shots, and I'm like, bullshit, dude. It is about popularity, not who controls the group. Fuck off. So, he tried to act like he was all badass, and I'm like, you're in a marching band, dude. A marching band in college. Come on. So, he was basically like, hey, I don't like that guy, so you need to go and start dating him, and then break his heart. And I'm like, that's some fucked up shit, So Serafina's like, I don't want to do that to him, because she liked, Julian. So she ends up asking Julian, like, hey, is there any way you could do, like, a fake relationship with me? This is what's going on, that type of thing, so we could pretend. So it kind of starts out with this fake relationship. Also, Julian's kind of hiding some secrets from her that, she doesn't know about, different things like that. So there's that type of aspect to the story as well. But this was really so sweet. I said, I felt for both of these characters. They've dealt with not supportive family members, so it has affected their mental health. So Julian does keep a secret from her for most of the book. And then she's upset when she finds out, which is understandably so. I also enjoyed the fact that she didn't linger with being upset. She understood why he kept the secret. So it wasn't like that huge of a deal, but it was a bit like he was lying to her for a little bit on something. But, to me, I was like, it's okay. I was okay with that aspect to it. But I really liked it because I like reading about scarred heroes. I like reading about that stuff because it's like, they need love too. These men that, have, scars on their faces and stuff like that, they need love too. But I really enjoyed that one. But I didn't love it as much as Sweet Like Poison, but it's still enjoyable. I do think out of that whole series, The third and fourth book are probably the best ones. I do feel like Sweet Like Poison and Real Like Daydreams are probably the best of that series, in my opinion. That's what I see, you know? The next one was, I read another Lorraine Heath. This one I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed this one. So this is part of the Lost Lords series. This is the first book in the series. It's As an Earl Desires. So I gave this 5 stars. This has Lady Camilla and Lord Archibald Saxey. That's what the narrator was saying in the audiobook. Saxey. There's content warning for talk of domestic violence and talk of possible infertility. So we have Lady Camilla has come from poverty, and when she was little, she was the former countess's companion at 14, and upon the countess's death, the elderly earl married Camilla when she was 16 years old. The aging earl wasn't a good man, and he passed away, leaving no heir behind to inherit the title. So it went to the next person in the earl's line. So Archibald, which goes by Archie or Arch to her, the new earl is a former teacher. He never thought he'd ever take on the title of Lord Saxey, and when he meets Lady Camilla, he is instantly attracted to her and wants her for his countess. He wants to marry for love, and Lady Camilla is tasked with finding a woman to suit the lord. So Lady Camilla wants to marry a duke so she can use the funds for her charity work. She doesn't want to marry a man who wants children because she believes that she is barren, because when she was with the earl, she wasn't able to ever get pregnant. So I really enjoyed this book, so you could see how much longing Archie had for Camilla and how much he wanted her. He was really very patient with her because he can see how closed off she was with how she was abused. And so Lady Camilla has secrets she can't read, and her husband physically abused her, which left her scars. He whipped her. The former earl, that old, crotched up, crusty motherfucker, used to whip her. Yeah. So she has scars on her body. Motherfucker. Dig his ass up and kill him again. He's just not a good person. So she kept pushing Lord Saxey away, but he slowly kept challenging her and pushing her to open herself up to him. I said it was a very sweet romance. They do have, like, there is intimate scenes, but they're more toward the end of the book, you know, more toward the ending. So there's a lot of build up with this, a lot of the characters where you could see, like, he's instantly attracted to her. There's something about her that he just likes. And so he ends up, like, breaking down all of her defenses that she had. And she basically was sort of like almost a villain-like character in the previous book. There was a previous book in another series where she was introduced and Archie was introduced. And I years ago when I read the other book, I was like, I wanted to read this one, and I never got around to it. I finally read this one, and I'm like, this was so sweet. This was so sweet. Just seeing him open her up and getting her to, like, find love again and go from there. And there was like a twist ending. There was a twist to the story. So it's the one thing about Lorraine Heath is she definitely does, like, twists and stuff like that. There was a twist to the ending. I'll just say that. And it was interesting. It was very interesting, but I really enjoyed this one. And that's why I ended up giving it 5 stars. This is going to be a book I keep because I physically have this one. This will be a book I keep. So the next one, I ended up reading. This is the first book in that Savage You series. So this is Soft Like Thunder. I ended up giving this a 3. It had issues. I had issues with it. So we have Helen and Theo. So it says content warning. There's talk of selling drugs, stripping, and battery in here. I'm not into romances with, like, drug addiction or drug selling or, like, criminal behavior to the point where you could go and get arrested and go to jail. I don't like that type of stuff. I'm not really into that type of thing. I'd rather see a hero or a heroine have, like, a legit job, not some, like, scumbag job like selling drugs or being around drug dealers and things like that. I don't like all that stuff. I have families. I have how many people in my family that are either drug addicts or former drug addicts. So I really just don't like that whole like reading about all that stuff, because I don't like it. I'm not a fan of it. So it's not my thing. I really would have preferred if Julia Wolf didn't write that storyline down, you know? So Helen comes from a poor family and has lived in a trailer park. She was working at a skateboard shop when she first meets Theo and his two douchebag friends. She ends up getting lucky and meets a wealthy lady who she becomes her companion for almost a year. And then Helen gets into Savage U, where she sees Theo again. So Theo comes from wealth. So when he sees Helen again, he is intrigued. I said this was interesting, but had a lot of drama and drug references that I wasn't a fan of. Sorry. Also, throughout most of the book, both characters kept secrets from each other. So there was a third act breakup, but I will say I liked seeing the hero's redemption and changing himself around. There were times that I liked Helen. I did like Helen, but there were times she kind of frustrated me because she kept like, I can understand if you're a child of a drug addict, you know, of an addict. I can understand you as the child, you want to help your parent as much as you can because they're your parent. I get that. I totally get that. Why you would want to try to keep helping your parent. But there comes a point you have to give up on them. If they are not willing to admit they have a problem and they need help, you have to give up on them. They will continue to use you and abuse you for as long as it benefits them. They are in that addictive mindset. They're not thinking clearly. All they think about is that fix. That's it. They don't care about you. They care about the fix. That's what matters the most to them. There's only so much you can do to help them. They have to help themselves if they want it. So for me, my ex was an alcoholic. There was only so much I could do to help him. There was only so much I can do. He blamed me for not helping him enough. And that to me told me he's going to consider himself a victim and continue to act in that victim mentality. You have to realize you put yourself in that situation. Some people have addictive personalities or addictive mindsets. There are people who consider addiction a disease. And in a sense, I think it is a disease. In a sense that I think it is. Because there are people who may not even been raised around a person in their family who was an addict, but you could become an addict because maybe it's in your blood. Maybe you have addictive personality, that type of thing. So in a way, I do consider it kind of a disease, maybe not in the same sense as other diseases and things like that. Like, this is a disease that you can help prevent. I have a bunch of addicts in my family, alcoholics or former drug addicts or drug addicts. My uncle, one uncle was an addict. He got clean. He's on a straight and narrow. He has a job. He works for the city. There you go. That's a success story right there. He's married. That's a success story. But I have seen others in my family who continue to go down that road and they don't fix themselves. I can't be around them. So for this, I had trouble with Helen when it came to her still trying to help her mother. She hated her mom. She just could not stand her mom. It got to the point where she didn't want to help her anymore. And I'm like, I honestly don't blame her. Her mother has to help herself. Her mother has to help herself. There has to be options available for you, like get you in a rehab, like especially like affordable rehab or like free rehab. There has to be options available for that because there are some people who they're on the streets. How are they supposed to afford help? afford healthcare or afford rehab if they're on the streets or they're barely getting by. There needs to be systems in place available for those people who actually want to get help, actually want to get treatment, because it gets them off the street and not on the, government system or the state system. If they can get off the street and do for themselves, it's less on our tax dollars that go into helping these people. So that's why for me, I will push for, you help them to try to get them clean. If there's a point where they don't want to get clean, I honestly would have a land for them and say, roam the land. Yes, let's stay on the land. That's where your home is. It's on this piece of property. You stay there. If you want to go and self-delete, that is your choice. That is up to you at that point. There's only so much you could do to help somebody. And it may sound harsh. There might be people who are like, oh, you have to continue to help them. There's only so much help you can give to somebody. There's only so much help you can give to somebody. So with her, it was like, there were times Helen kind of irritated me. And then with Theo, and like the way his life was when he grew up, like, because he didn't always grow up with money. So there was things that he kind of irritated me a little bit. And ultimately, that's why I ended up giving it a 3. Because there were a lot of like drama and different things that went on. And I just was not always a fan of it. So I was like, the highest I'm going to give this is like a 3. So same thing with like Bright Like Midnight by Jay Wolf. This is another book I read. So this one has Zadie and Amir. So there was content warning, talk of selling drugs, violence, stalking, virgin heroin, curvy heroin, dominant/submissive relationship. So Amir holds Zadie captive in the first book of this series, and that said this is their story. In the first book, there was a part in the first book where Helen had to go and strip, to get money to go and pay off a debt. And Amir was the brother of the drug dealer. And so Amir is basically like, what is he again? I consider him, he's more an enforcer to his brother. So we saw Amir with Zadie shortly in the first book. So this is basically their story. So Zadie's a good girl. She keeps to herself a lot. Her only friends in college are Helen and Elena. Helen gets herself in some trouble, and Zadie allows herself to become a captive to Amir, whose brother is a drug dealer. I said Amir is more of the enforcer of his brother, like I said. Amir is instantly attracted to Zadie. He doesn't know what it is about her, but he wants to know more of her. So it says several months later, Zadie goes with a guy to a warehouse party where she knows Amir might be at. And once the guy gets into some crap, Zadie decides to be owned by Amir. So there were some parts of this book I enjoyed, but there were also parts that annoyed me. I didn't always like Amir's treatment of Zadie because he called her like my pet. I'm not a fan of that. I have been in past relationships. I wouldn't say it was like dating, but like hookup, things like that. I've been in a relationship like that before, where the person called me a certain name and I fucking hated it. I hated his little pet name for me. I did not like that at all. It made me feel cheap, and I don't like feeling that way. So he would call her my pet, and I was like, dude, you could see on her face she doesn't like this. How do you keep doing that to hurt her? Make her feel bad. Why would you do that? Now, Zadie did have a bit of a backbone. She started sticking up for herself, which I appreciated, because I'm like, yeah, Zadie, don't be a friggin' pushover, girl. So there were things that he would do, and it just kind of irritated me. And he finally got to the point where he started like treating her better, like, you know, and actually like protecting her and things like that. Because there was also like a situation going on with her where she had a stalker in her like past, like when she was in high school. And so she had a lot of things going on in college where she started getting like these notes, and she didn't know if it was like that person who, you know, was from her past that had a lot of like mental issues. And so she didn't know who it was, and it was terrifying her. So he started like, Amir started protecting her. And that was ultimately why she started like hanging out with him, because she wanted some protection. She figured he would do it, you know? But that, like, I'd say the beginning and middle just frustrated me, in the point of like, Amir annoyed me, where I was like, dude, you can clearly see that she's a good person. She wants to be a good person. And you are not treating her well. Like, I did like his one nickname for her. He would call her Little Mama. I thought that was really sweet when he started calling her that. But when he called her my pet, I'm like, no, dude. No. No. There was a decision for the third act breakup that annoyed me when it came to Zadie, that I just wasn't a fan of. I said, but other than that, this was a decent romance. It was decent, but like I said, there were like how many different things that kind of irritated me in the book that more annoyed me than I liked. So this is why I ended up giving it a 3, because I am not a fan of the whole possession thing, you know? Like, I could see, like, if you're in a relationship and you're like, well, you're mine, I'm yours, you could have that type of thing where it's like more of a romantic thing, you know, like my husband is mine and I'm my husband's, that type of thing, where you're committed to each other, where you're loyal to each other. It's not a point of possession where it's ownership. Like, just because I'm married to my husband doesn't mean he owns me. It doesn't mean I'm his property. It doesn't work like that. You know, back in the day, women didn't have that type of agency, so we were a part of, like, basically property. Now it's different. Marriage is, like, different when it comes to that type of thing. We're more partners. We have a partnership. We're equals to each other. You know, we have decisions with each other, you know, that help us connect to make our marriage continue. So with that, it's like, I don't like the whole, like, I own you. Fuck off, you know? Like, no, you know, not doing that. No thanks. So that was probably the thing that kind of irritated me. If you like that type of thing, you probably would like the book, but I don't like that whole thing. It just kind of irritates me, you know? And I have that, like, stubborn thing where I'm like, you ain't owning shit, brother. You ain't owning shit. Sorry, it don't work like that. Not with me. Maybe some 20-year-old bimbo is going to be willing to put up with that fucking shit, but no thank you. Not happening. So, yeah. So, the last book, this was a physical book I had read. I've had this on my bookshelf for at least a couple of years. This is A Yuletide Kiss. So it has Madeline Hunter, Sabrina Jeffries, and Mary Jo Putney. So with the Sabrina Jeffries stories, it's When We Finally Kiss Goodnight. It had the characters of Conrad Junker, and Flora Younger. So it's Junker and Younger. It's kind of confusing. So it's a second chance romance. So I said Conrad and Flora met 8 years ago and things didn't work out then, but Conrad and Flora meet again at an inn during a snowstorm. Conrad is a playwright and Flora has secretly been panning the reviews of his plays. It was a 3-star. I thought it was okay. The next book in that anthology, it was Madeline Hunter, The Unexpected Gift. So we had the characters of Jenna Waverly and Lucas Avonwood. So Jenna has her inn closed for holidays, but people need a place to stay due to an ice storm. While she is letting people come into the inn, one of her workers finds a sick man in the snow, and Jenna decides to nurse the man back to health. So Lucas is looking for a scoundrel who's been seducing women, and he is looking to find a piece of jewelry that was stolen. He awakens to a pretty woman taking care of him. Has very much like a lot of the caretaking scenes in here, and I thought that was sweet, but I didn't like it enough to like give it a 4 or 5 stars. I thought it was okay, so I ended up giving that one a 3. And the last one, I enjoyed this one more. So this is Mary Jo Putney, When Strangers Meet. So we got the characters of Kate McLeod and Daniel Farrington. So it said Kate McLeod and her servants end up at the inn, and she is shocked that her might-be husband Daniel Farrington is there as well. So Daniel is an ex-soldier who was suicidal and half drunk when he married Kate by saving her from being on a marriage block 8 years earlier. Once he sees her again, he realizes that he wants to see if their marriage can work out for them. So I gave that 4 stars. See, years ago, he didn't realize that what he was doing was basically marrying her. He thought he was helping her. He took her to like other family members and all that stuff because she had a shitty uncle. She ended up, her father passed away. And so she was basically, had her inheritance. Well, her uncle basically wanted to take the inheritance for himself and just basically put her on the marriage block and didn't care about her and all that stuff. And so the hero ends up saving her from the marriage mart, and he didn't realize that he actually married her. So he wanted to see if the marriage would work out because he always thought about her and wondered what happened to her. She was okay. And, you know, he has a lot of like different stuff that he dealt with. Like he obviously went through like the war and everything like that, and seeing all this different stuff around him. And he kind of looks at this like a second chance for him of like, hey, maybe we could make this work. You know, I'm attracted to her and everything. I thought it was sweet. And I really enjoyed that story a lot more than the other ones. But yeah, that's how much I've read this month here. There's another Christmas anthology that I'm currently listening to right now. That'll probably be in my February reads, and I don't care if it's Christmas. I'm just getting it done. I'm just getting these books read just to take them off my list if I want to keep them or not. I didn't decide to keep that anthology. I'm just going to donate that book. But yeah, I'm just trying to get through more of my physical copies, and the people who live above me now are so annoying. They keep banging up there. It is so annoying to me. So I'm hoping that February it'll be good for me, and because like I said, I've been listening to more of my physical copies or reading my physical copies. I want to lower my number of books that I physically have and just keep them to books that I really love and enjoy, and those are the copies I want to covet and have them on my shelves and love and reread and all that stuff. Those are the ones I want. I want to just keep the ones that are very special to me and just kind of get rid of all the ones that are just not so special to me. So that's basically what I want to do. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Let me know if you like the way I do this, where I, you know, talk about all my physical copies, my ebooks, my DNFs, all that stuff. The only things I'm saving for the end of the year is all of my books that I gave either a 2-star or 1-star to. Anything that really fucking annoyed me, that's what I'm going to talk about at the end of the year. The books that are just, I thought were like the worst books of the year, that type of thing. But yeah, that's it for this video here. Have yourselves a good day. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other, and I'll see you all on the next video. All right, bye.